15, we replacing 15? Huh? Yeah, 15, I see a new 15.
Good evening, all. Welcome to the December 6, 2017 Town Board meeting. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Jeff Renahan, First Ward.
Bill Carlos, Second Ward.
Joseph Lepore, 5th Ward.
Ann Shershen, 6th Ward.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, Attorney for the Town.
John Baisley, Town Supervisor. On tonight's agenda, the first two things we have are two public hearings. Town Code Amendment, Chapter 177, subdivision of lands, parks, and playgrounds, the first one. And the second one's an excavation law, Chapter 174, Town Code. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 1.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody here to discuss public hearing number 1, subdivision of lands, parks, and playgrounds? Going once? Anybody? Nobody?
Sold.
Make a motion to public hearing number 1.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jeff?
Being enacted that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to a public hearing held on December 6, 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 101 Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby adopt amendments to Town Code Chapter 177 and listed subdivision law, and be it further enacted that the amendments are attached hereto and incorporated herein with language to be added, underscored, and language to be deleted, stricken. And the Town Board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendments and does direct that said amendments be spread across the record as if it, in fact, had been read verbatim. Be it further enacted that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie has determined that this action is a Type 2 action requiring no environmental review. And be it further enacted that the legal notice of the public hearing was posted on November 16, 2017, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on November 27, 2017. And be it further enacted that the said local law shall take effective immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So move.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any questions on this one?
Yeah, I have a question. What's the difference between a major subdivision and a minor subdivision?
Neil Wilson, Town Development Director. Under our code, a minor subdivision is anything less than 3 lots in terms of a split, and that includes obviously the original parent parcel.
Okay, because in here you say that, okay, the reservation land for recreational purposes shall not apply to a minor subdivision, which makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, because there's not enough space for it.
Right.
A payment in lieu of land shall not be applied to a minor subdivision. So do they not have to pay rec fees in a minor subdivision?
It has been our policy not to.
Okay, so,
Typically, it's a 2-lot split, so to impose a fee on that, on the new lot seems onerous. And in fact, the language that we're replacing sort of says that.
yeah.
This is a cleanup of that language, but that's been our policy.
Okay, no, that's fine, because, yeah, I thought it was just like a single house going in.
Pretty much that's what
Yeah.
these are, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 2, excavation law, Chapter 174, Town Code.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody here to discuss public hearing number 2, the excavation law? Nobody? A motion to close public hearing number 2.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any questions? Bill, go ahead, read it. Fire away.
I'll read it and then I'll.
Yep.
Be it enacted that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to a public hearing held on the 6th day of December 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, 101 Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby Resolved that because the adoption of this proposed local law does not authorize any particular action, it does not include new programs or major reordering of priorities that may affect the environment, and because it does not require a SECA review to be performed before permits are issued, it is a Type 2 action requiring no SECA review, and be it enacted that Town Code 174, entitled Streets and Sidewalks, is amended by adopting a local law in the form attached, which amendment shall be as follows. Repeal Section 174, Sub 21 through 174, Sub 35, Streets and Sidewalks, Article 4, Excavations, and add Section 174-21 through 174-36, Streets and Sidewalk, Article 4, Excavations attached. And be it further enacted that the amendments are attached hereto, incorporated herein, and the town board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendments, and does direct that the said amendments be spread across the record as if it in fact had been read verbatim. And be it further enacted that the legal notice of a public hearing was posted on November 17, 2017, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on November 27, 2017. And be it further enacted that the said local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
The motion and second. Any questions on this one?
This is the law that we started developing through the Infrastructure Committee. It goes back to 2 years ago when we had a lot of work done in one of the roads, and it made it very difficult for the people who live on the street. And it left Mark with a kind of a mess for him to fix in the roads. This local law is based on a copy that came down from the Association of Towns and is designed to protect the $10 million we're using to pave local roads. And it means that people are going to be asked to get a permit. Now, if the permit is for your driveway, where your driveway touches the town road, it'll be a minimum fee. And it's just so that we know what's going on. And as the fact is, Mark usually helps people with that kind of connection to our town road. This prohibits, without a permit, people from just digging our road to make connections for whatever reason they want to do. To connect to the drains, to connect whatever. They need a permit to do that. And if you don't get a permit, that's when the fines start to build up. So the desire is to make sure that we let people do what they need to do, yet protect the roads. So if something goes on in the road, the person who's doing it or the company who's doing it has to return the road to the normal condition of the roads. And that's at the highway superintendent's approval. And I think it's been a lot of work. And Mr. Delson did a significant amount of work on this to make sure we had the language exactly right. And to Mark Nelson, to the people on the Infrastructure Committee, to Ann, who was on that committee with me.
Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Come to the end of our public hearings. We have a rather small agenda tonight. First one is Office of New York State Controller's Office, determination on Brian Mullins' retirement. 2, Highway Superintendent to purchase new trucks. 3 is a 30-day liquor license for Twisted Soul waiver. 4, Vanderwater and Vanderwater Quarter cleanup of property located in the town. 5, Capolino Rothschild tax cert for Fox Run. 6, amend Town Code 195 stop signs at Crestwood and Pennock. 7, bid advertisement Arlington wastewater treatment plant repair support pipes. 9, addendum 4 to Poughkeepsie water sale purchase agreement, Hopewell Gren. 10, release of a letter of credit, Grand Meadow subdivision. 11, adopt the findings of Statement of Hudson Heritage. 12, approve the Town Code Amendment 210-30 Hudson Heritage. 13, approve the Development Master Plan Hudson Heritage. And a special consent Highway Department to purchase a dump truck. Make a motion to suspend the rules for public comment on any agenda item.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody like to discuss any item on the agenda? Mr. Armstrong.
Actually, just for some clarification or understanding, purchased the 2 new trucks for the highway. Are they pickup trucks or dump trucks, or do we know what they are?
2 Ford F-550 dump and F-350.
550 and a 350?
Yep.
Okay. And the Vanderwater, what is the cleanup of property? What is that, the same thing we've been doing, cutting lawns, cleaning up the junk and everything?
Basically, this is the next step beyond cleaning the lawn, it's all the junk in the yard.
Okay, this is the, pushing it to the last stage, more or less.
Correct.
And Fox Run is now going to have a tax
The tax
cut in
rate,
their property value? Of the
they're
entire
trying,
the entire,
they're trying for that, and we had to hire an outside attorney for that.
okay. I might as well, I guess that's about it for now. All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Would anybody else that would like to discuss any item that's on the agenda? Come on up, Matthew.
Hello. I had a question. I was
Just
looking.
state your name for the tape.
Oh, sorry, Matthew Wolliver.
Okay, thanks.
22 Spackenkill Road. I was looking over the Hudson Heritage Project, the Environmental Review Act that you're about to adopt. The traffic impact specifically, they've done a ton of work about mitigating the traffic that will be added, particularly south of the project, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot done north of the project, specifically where Route 9 meets Big Meadow Lane. They've on the traffic impact. It shows that there will be a negative impact, but there doesn't seem to be any traffic signal coordination or anything like that. So I was wondering why they ignored that intersection. At the moment, there's just a stop sign there, and turning left out of Big Meadow going south onto Route 9 is a pain as it is, and adding all of the extra traffic from farther south might make that even more
Well, Neil,
challenging.
maybe you can answer that because they've been in front of the DOT numerous times, and I think that's where it probably would have been addressed.
Yeah, just so I didn't catch part of your, which intersection you're?
Route 9 and Big Meadow Lane, just north.
right
of the
past
project.
Stewart's.
Oh, okay.
Just past Stewart's.
Yeah, no, we've looked at that, actually, that entire stretch of road. There's a traffic signal proposed for the Fulton Street 9G, and that will actually help mitigate some of the traffic concerns a little bit further north. I mean, if you want to spend some time, this is really not the forum to take you through. I mean, we spent a lot of time on the traffic issues, probably a half a dozen meetings with the folks at DOT as well. And so the mitigation that's outlined, and it's a phased mitigation. So, there are certain trigger points, at which point, like, for instance, the southern main entrance.
Right.
That's the first thing to be done.
Right.
Regardless of how many square feet of commercial
Occupied.
will be going in.
Right.
But as other parts of the project come online, now you're looking, the rest of the remainder of Route 9, as well as, like I said, Fulton Street and 9G. So there are certain things that'll be phased in over time.
Okay.
The other thing too, and I'm actually happy you brought this up, one of the things that is in the finding statement is a direction to the planning board that as other projects in the area may come online, adding traffic to the traffic that's already been analyzed as part of this project, if the additional traffic from those other projects creates a trigger or a need for a traffic improvement, those other projects get to pay a fair share as well. So, and I think that's a key item. But if you want to go through sort of the nuts and bolts of it, I'll be happy.
It seemed like there was a lot done south of the project and not a lot done north, but maybe there's less.
Right, well, that's kind of where the traffic is really coming to and to and from, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else who would like to discuss any item on the agenda? If not, we motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie has received a determination regarding an application of the town of Poughkeepsie Police Officer Brian E. Mullen
for accidental disability retirement from the Office of New York State Comptroller, New York State and local police and fire system, retirement system dated November 17, 2017. And whereas said determination found that Mr. Mullen is permanently incapacitated for performance of his duties as a Town of Poughkeepsie police officer, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby concur with the Office of the New York State Comptroller's Office determination, and his accidental disability retirement is effective immediately. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Whereas the Town of Poughkeepsie Highway Department wishes to purchase 2 new Ford trucks, now therefore be resolved that Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the Highway Superintendent or Supervisor to purchase 2 new Ford trucks, F-550 dump, $64,842.63, and an F-350 XL, $48,810.50, both under state procurement pricing of $113,653.13, pursuant to attached recommendation of the Superintendent Highway, the cost of which covers by the CHIPS funds, and be further resolved, the contract is exempt from the town's purchasing policy because it's a state contract, and its equipment purchase, which is a Type 2 action, require no seeker review. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby acknowledge receipt of a request on behalf of Twisted Soul, 47 Raymond Avenue, Poughkeepsie, New York, for a waiver of the 30-day review period for a liquor license application, and be further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the Town Clerk's forwarding of a waiver and consent pursuant to the attached request. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Whereas the Town Board has by Resolution 45, number 3 of 2017 determined that the premises at 245 Wilbur Boulevard is unsafe under Town Code Chapter 71, and has authorized the town to undertake necessary demolition or repair, and whereas the owner has failed to remediate the condition at 245 Wilbur Boulevard, now therefore be resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby retain Kyle Barnett Esquire of Vanderwater and Vanderwater, the rate of $185 per hour for partners, $165 an hour for associates, $80 an hour for paralegals, to initiate litigation against the owners of 245 Wilbur Boulevard, which property is believed to be currently owned by Stanley C. Mill Spa as trustee of Stanley C. Mill Spa Living Trust and Bernice Mill Spa as trustee of the Bernice B. Mill Spa Living Trust or their successors, for judicial authorization permitting the town, its agents or contractors to enter the property, the board it as necessary to prohibit entry and remove the debris stored at the property, and also for a judgment lien against the owners and the property pursuant to Town Code Chapter 71-11 for the expense incurred by the town and for such other relief as the court may deem just and proper. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? This has been long going, and we gotta move on to the next step.
It's an extreme situation, and it's unfortunate we had to go to the step, but
Yep. All those in favor?
needs to be clear.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby retain Capolino and Rothschild LLP at the hourly rate of $150 for attorneys to represent the town's interests in proceeding known as Fox Run at Fulton LLC, First Town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County Supreme Court, index number 2017-51707. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any question on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution 8, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept the certificates of attendance for Carl H. Whitehead from Dutchess County Planning Federation for courses entitled Form-Based
Bill?
Zone.
Sorry to interrupt. I think that's the wrong.
That's a
Resolution.
different day.
Someone could
This
just,
is about Crestwood Boulevard.
Yeah.
This is the one I have.
12-6.
By mistake.
It's mixed in by mistake.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
yes, we already did that one.
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby set the 20th day of December 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the time, date, and place of a public hearing to consider amendments to the Town Code, Chapter 195 entitled Vehicle and Traffic, specifically 195 Sub 44, Section 9, Stop Intersections, which amendment would be as follows. Add Section 195 Sub 44, Schedule 9, Stop Intersections. Stop sign on Crestwood Boulevard, direction of travel both, at the intersection of Pennock Road. And be it further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does determine that this is a Type 2 action requiring no environmental review. And be it further resolved that if adopted, said local law shall become effective immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
The motion second. Any questions on this one?
In case anybody's wondering, we're looking at putting an additional stop sign at Pennock and Crestwood to slow down the traffic. They get a tremendous amount of traffic coming through there, especially when the college is in session. We're also looking at doorless, but we're not ready to proceed on doorless just yet. So basically just trying to slow the traffic down a little bit because they're racing through there.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the town clerk to advertise for bids for Arlington Wastewater Treatment Plant tunnel repairs to support for pipes, contract number 2017-07, pursuant to plans and specifications will be available on December 11, 2017, in the office of the town clerk. That an optional site visit for bidders will be on January 8, 2018 at 1 p.m. at the Administrative Building, 78 Sandock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, and that the bid openings will be held on January 30th, 2018 at 11 a.m., by which time all bids will be received, and be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby reserve the right to accept or reject all bids in whole or part, and be it further resolved that the Town Board does hereby determine that this repair contract is a Type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution number 10, be resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby authorize the supervisor to consent and execute amendment number 4 on behalf of the Town of Poughkeepsie Water Sale and Purchase Agreement between the Poughkeepsie Joint Water Board and the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority. Extended for 2 years the authority water purchase option and water storage agreement in favor of the town of East Fishkill's Hopewell Glen Water District, and be further resolved that the agreement represents part of the ongoing administration of the town of Poughkeepsie's affairs with no change, which will create a substantial adverse environmental impact, is a Type 2 action requiring no seeker review. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie by Resolution 1115-6 of 2017 accepted the roads within Grand Meadow subdivision as well as a one-year maintenance bond in the amount of $112,000. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby release and return the developer's letter of credit of $234,000 in regard to the Grand Meadow subdivision pursuant to a recommendation of Neil Wilson, Director of Municipal Development, conditioned upon the receipt of acceptable and recordable deeds with meets and bounds described for all roads and easements, together with a proof of clear title per Town Code 177-32G. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Resolution of Town Board adopting secret findings for the Hudson Heritage Project. Whereas EFG DRA Heritage LLC is the owner of approximately 156-acre site of the former Hudson River State Hospital on Route 9 in the town of Poughkeepsie, and whereas the site is located in the Historic Revitalization Development District under the zoning code of the town of Poughkeepsie, and whereas EFG DRA is proposing various amendments to the HRDD regulations in the town code and proposing to redevelop the site as mixed-use, pedestrian-friendly, residential and commercial development known as the project, and whereas on June 5th, 2015, EFG DRA provided the town board with the Development Master Plan application, petition for a zoning amendment, a long environmental assessment form, Part 1, setting forth technical details pertaining to the potential environmental impacts of the project. And whereas the resolution adopted on July 22nd, 2015, the town board designated itself lead agency for the review of the project in the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act pursuant to 6 NYCRR Section 617.6, and issued a positive declaration requiring the preparation of an environmental impact statement pursuant to 6 NYCRR Section 617.7. Whereas on August 19, 2015, the town board held a public scoping session to identify potentially significant adverse environmental impacts related to the project that are to be addressed in the EIS, and therefore accept a written comment through August 31st, 2015. Whereas the town board adopted a final scope in accordance with 6 NYCRR Section 617.8 on September 16, 2015. Whereas EFG DRA submitted a draft environmental impact statement for the Hudson Heritage Project to the town board on October 25th, 2016. And whereas the town board, after consultation with its staff, independent consultants, and special counsel, determined on October 2nd, 2016 by the town board resolution number 3 of 2016 that the DEIS was adequate with respect to its scope and content for the purpose of commencing public review pursuant to 6 NYCRR Section 617.9A2, whereas the town board held a duly notified public hearing on the DEIS on December 7th, 2016, and formally accepted written comments on the DEIS until 14 days thereafter. Although comments were received and accepted from certain interested and involved agencies after the comment period ended, in order to accommodate these agencies' continued review of the project. And whereas EFG DRA submitted a draft final environmental impact statement for the project, the town staff on or about March 30, 2017, whereas the town board staff, independent consultant, and special counsel reviewed the draft FEIS to determine whether to accept it as complete for the purpose of distributing to the public, and whereas on about May 23, 2017, town staff provided EFG DRA with comprehensive comments on the draft FEIS, seeking additional information and various clarifications. Whereas on about August 27, 2017, EFG DRA submitted a revised draft FEIS to the town, which addressed the aforementioned comments. And whereas on September 20th, 2017, the town board determined that the FEIS was complete and directed its staff to publish a notice of completion and file copies to the FEIS as required by regulation. And whereas the town board has prepared a written statement of environmental findings for the project pursuant to Section 617.11C of SECRE's implementing regulations. And whereas the secret finding statement, which is annexed hereto, set forth the town board's reasons elaboration as to the facts and conclusions as developed in the DEIS, FEIS in response to the public and agency comments received as part of the review process relating to the potential environmental impacts of the project. Whereas the secret finding statement also sets forth the town board's requirements, conditions, and/or mitigation measures related to the project pursuant to secret. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby adopts the annexed secret finding statement for the project as the town board's official written finding statement pursuant to Section 617.11C of SECRE's implementing regulations. And 2, the town board hereby directs the appropriate town staff to file the secret finding statement with the town supervisor's office, the town board, and all involved agencies, any person who has requested a copy, and the applicant pursuant to 6 NYCRR Section 617.12B1. And number 3, the town board hereby directs the town clerk to maintain secret finding statements and files that are readily accessible to the public, made available on request pursuant to 6 NYCRR Section 617.12B3. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions on that one?
What does all that mean?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Mine seems just as long, huh, Jeff? We're gonna have to take a break here.
Yeah, I may, if you want, we can just summarize what's before you rather than having to read the entire, because there are a series of resolutions.
Yes.
And perhaps it's probably just more efficient and not as legalese. I'll try not to be as legalese as it's written before you, if that's okay. Whatever you want to do.
Please.
What's your feeling? That would be easier to do it that way?
Yes.
You're fine with that?
Well, it certainly would be easier, and I think it's
Okay.
okay to do it.
Yeah, as between the three resolutions, there's a lot of repetitive language and talking back to the things that we've, already procedurally accomplished over the preceding couple of years. So, yeah, the shortcut would be favored, to be honest with you.
I'll probably be longer than the resolution. No, I won't. Good evening, everybody. As you know, I'm David Cooper from the law firm of Zarin Steinmetz, your special counsel on this matter. We are at the culmination of the secret process tonight. What you have before you, and I guess let me just step back for a second, just so we set the context. This is the application of DRA for the redevelopment of the HRDD site. As you probably recall, they submitted an application for a development master plan, as well as a petition for to modify the zoning district or some of the zoning provisions within the HRDD to accommodate or to in furtherance of this development. Over the last year and a half, almost 2 years, you've been undertaking the systematic consideration of both the project and the rezoning together in a single SECRA review, and that was a coordinated review so that you, along with many other agencies that are going to have their hands in this application or have already had their hands in this application, are coordinating their review and giving you comments. Ultimately, it's for your board as the SECRA lead agency to make a determination, which is before you tonight in a finding statement, which is essentially the determination that to the extent that there are potential significant adverse environmental impacts, you've identified them, you've taken a hard look at them, you've identified ways to either avoid or mitigation measures that would reduce to the maximum extent practical those impacts, and would lay out the support for a finding that the DMP, the Development Master Plan, as well as the zoning text amendment, can be adopted by this board. As you would recall, it was a step-by-step process which was laid out in all three of the resolutions before you, because what you need to do is make the record as to how you got from A to Z here. But as you remember, there was a scoping document that was adopted by your board, which laid out the tables of contents, essentially what should be in a environmental impact statement. You were then presented with a draft environmental impact statement from the applicant, laying out all areas of potentially potential significant environmental impacts, studying potential mitigation measures. Once you deemed that document to be complete, that was circulated to the public for comment, as well as your board held a public hearing, not only on the DEIS, but also on the proposed zoning text amendment, as well as the development master plan. I'll get back to those two aspects in a second, but following through with the SECRA process, after accepting comments from the public, from all the involved agencies, the planning board, DOT, SHPO, the list goes on. All of those comments were then compiled, provided to the applicant. They then went off and came up with answers to all the comments, or responded to all the comments, which was then compiled in a final environmental impact statement, an FEIS. In September of this year, your board deemed that document to be complete. And now what's before you is a complete record of all of the environmental analysis that has occurred. Now, of course, it wasn't just your board itself. You were assisted by your professional staff, as well as consultants, and also involved agencies in the planning board in getting to this point. What you have now before you is a finding statement which outlined in pretty comprehensive fashion all of the bases that your board would find to support a determination that all of the significant impacts have been mitigated, either avoided or mitigated to the maximum extent practical, and that the project as well as the zoning are in acceptable forms for approval. Once you adopt the finding statement, and what I should say about the finding statement is you have before you, as you can see, that it's pretty comprehensive. It's got all of the mitigation measures that would be required as part of the development master plan. We were had a quick conversation before about traffic mitigation measures, for example. That's all spelled out in the finding statement. That finding statement will be utilized by the planning board if and when a site plan application, whether it's one or in sub-phases or many phases, is submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the application, in furtherance of the redevelopment. So what we attempted to do, and the reason why it is pretty comprehensive, is so that there's a nice easy booklet essentially for the planning board to follow, because they're going to have to make a determination that any site plan that they see is consistent with the development master plan that you would approve. So once the finding statement is adopted, you have completed your obligations under SECRA. And then any agency that has approval or must issue a permit is now able to take action. In the case of your board, you are now able, once you would adopt the finding statement, to adopt the proposed zoning amendments that were included and evaluated throughout the last 2 years or year and a half, as well as then, once the zoning is adopted, approve the development master plan. So before you have a series of 3 resolutions. The first would be the secret determination or adopting the finding statement. The second would be adopting the proposed modifications to the zoning, because obviously that's got to be put in place first before you could act on the development master plan. And then finally, the development master plan. Procedurally, on the development master plan and the text amendment, the zoning text amendment, you have followed all the procedural prerequisites throughout this process, referrals to the planning board, to the county. You've held a public hearing on both matters and accepted comments on both matters. One note on the public hearing, you at the end of the public hearing for the text amendment and for the development master plan, you reserve the right to reopen the public hearing should you feel the need to at a future date. The reason for that is the law provides that the public must be advised of the fundamental nature of any zoning change. So obviously you have to provide notice and give them a ability to comment. If during the process the quote fundamental character of the proposed change is modified in a substantial way, you would need to hold a new hearing and provide the public with the ability to comment on the new changes. In this case, we held it open in case that would occur during the process. In this case, the proposed zoning as well as development master plan that was before you at the start of the process and part of the public hearing hasn't changed in a substantial way such that it would require a new public hearing. So your board certainly does not need to reopen the public hearings that were sort of left over or continued at the end of December of last year. The process moving forward, once the development master plan has been approved, then the applicant would be free to submit site plan applications to the planning board, whether it's one full site plan application or more likely phases is up to the applicant. The planning board will be, as we said, using your record and the record that they've participated in to guide their review. They will have to determine that whatever's put before them is consistent with the development master plan that this board has presumably approved. And to the extent that there are any substantial changes proposed in the site plan review, then they would have to be recertified or potentially brought back to your board for re-review. But I'm sort of getting way ahead of myself, but just so you know what's going to happen afterwards. This is sort of the culmination of a long review process, and certainly everybody has been working very hard, and I think both the applicant and staff as well as your consultants, AKRF, who couldn't be here tonight, but has certainly been working on traffic, planning, engineering, et cetera, and also the village's engineers have all been working through this whole process, and obviously I think it shows in the length and comprehensiveness of the finding statement before you. So we're certainly here to answer any questions, and the applicant is here as well, and can leave it to you.
Any more questions?
Just a question. Have you been preparing to meet with the zoning just to give them some updates of what's going on, or just you present it to the planning board, the town board?
The zoning board of appeals?
Yeah.
Well, so the zoning board of appeals doesn't have jurisdiction over any of the matters because there won't be any at this point. There are no variances proposed. So they weren't a involved agency. I don't know if they've been.
Well, we circulated 2 of them. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I suppose the it's possible that there might be a variance that might be triggered by some, future site plan that might be submitted.
Right.
It's pretty speculative at this point. So we have not briefed the zoning board. They're aware generally that, this matter has been reviewed for the last couple of years, but the planning board is the one that's really sort of dug into the, kind of the meat of the issues. We will certainly provide them copies of the amendment to update their code books so that they're aware of it. Frankly, I'm not really expecting that there will be very many area variances, let's say, triggered by future site plans as they come in with the various phases. And the reasons for that is the way that the area and bulk standards sort of lay out in the finding statement. We allow, we're looking for, buildings to be fairly close together, pedestrian friendly, that sort of thing. And so, the setbacks are pretty generous. Sometimes we actually have, in certain cases, 0 lot line for certain side yards and rear yards. So I don't really see that really happening. It could, I suppose.
All right.
But the list of uses is also fairly comprehensive, and so I don't really see much involvement on the zoning board's part in the near term.
Thank you.
A lot of work on this.
It's a boatload of work, and we've got a between ourselves and DRA and their representatives. I mean, it was a very comprehensive look and a lot of conversations, not only between the town staff and consultants and DRA and their staff and consultants, but we spent a lot of time, particularly, of course, the 800-pound gorilla's traffic. And so we spent a lot of time talking to the folks over at DOT. And one of the things that we were working very hard to try to avoid is a scenario where the board tonight is adopting its finding statement. All of the other involved agencies have an obligation, if they wish, they should, to adopt their own finding statement. What we didn't want was a scenario where the DOT as an involved agency would adopt a finding statement that would have been at odds with ours in terms of what the traffic mitigation is. And that's why we spent so much time speaking with them and detailing out what the improvements needed to be at various trigger points as different parts of the project come online. So that I'm confident that we're there based on the conversations we most recently have had with DOT. So, like I say, a lot of work went into it, and we think it's a pretty good document.
Neil, it was a long process, and, all the groups are involved, the many meetings with the county. I think county planning had a lot to say to help move this along, and the fact that instead of just passing the papers along and everybody sitting down at the same table, was planning or staff here or DOT, I think it actually went as smooth as possible for a project this big. They might not always agree, but I think we got through it in a project this big. I mean, it could have taken a lot longer.
Yep.
I mean, the county worked very well with us, I think, on it, and the state, I mean, we had our things, but it's their main road, and the traffic is their issue. But we got through it.
Well, we had a number of false starts with some prior owners, and I want to thank Nick and his team for staying at the table and working through the process with us to get to this point.
Agreed.
And, yeah.
So, what you could do, I wouldn't suggest now reading the resolutions, but if you want to adopt the resolutions in the order they are in the agenda, and take votes on each one, so we've got a record of it, I think that would work. Jim, I don't want to...
Yeah, so I mean, we have resolution number 12, which was passed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
And read.
That's correct.
And then what Mr. Renahan, I think, is planning on doing, based on what David said, and the fact that the supervisor read all the preface paragraphs in number 12, they're essentially repeated in
Yes.
13. So I think what Mr. Cooper and I are thinking is, Mr. Renahan, you could pick up on that third
The now
page,
therefore,
on just above the now therefore.
If I could, before Jeff, you start reading, Felicia, did you receive the fax from county planning?
Yes,
There
yeah.
was, and they have it, okay. I haven't seen it yet. One of the things that we had done last year, when we opened the public hearings in December of 2016, of course, we notified all the involved and interested agencies, but we also specifically notified the county planning department. And if you recall, it was the 3 public hearings on the DEIS, the zoning amendment, and the master plan. That was also the notice to county planning for purposes of the General Municipal Law 239M review, the referral over to them. We received comments from planning department on the DEIS, but we never received comments on the 239M referral. And I had spoken with the department a couple of times last week and most recently late this afternoon. And we do have their comments. I believe that they are local determination with comments. So those are things that we can take care of, consider as moving
Yeah,
forward.
the final
but-
recommendation is just that
Yeah.
the board rely upon its own study of facts in the case due consideration above comments.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that is, it takes a simple majority vote of the board, not a supermajority, to pass the amendment.
And the other thing we should say is the comments that the county provided are consistent with the comments that they provided back with the DEIS. So that these have been in the record for a while, but I think in order to make sure that there was a clear 239M referral as well, they sent you another document.
Excuse me, before Mr. Renahan proceeds.
27,
Pardon me?
number 27.
Number 27, okay, thank you.
Read my mind, huh?
So what, Mr. Renahan, I think, are you on the
Yeah.
3rd page?
Yeah, yep.
At the second whereas?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll just start by saying, resolution of the town board adopting proposed amendments to section 21030 of the town zoning code concerning the historic revitalization development district. Whereas the secret finding statement, which is hereby incorporated as if set forth fully herein, contains the town board's reasoned elaboration as to the facts and conclusions as developed in the DEIS, FEIS, and in response to the public and agency comments received as part of the review process relating to the potential environmental impacts of the project, including the zoning amendments. And whereas the secret finding statements also set forth the town board's basis for determining that the zoning amendment as revised is consistent with the town master plan, as well as other plan and policies related to the HRDD. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby adopts the attached local law 27, 2017, amending Article 5, Section 210-30 of the town zoning code relating to the historic revitalization development district. And 2, the town board directs the appropriate town staff to provide EFG DRA with a certified copy of local law 27, 2017. 3, local law 20-2017 shall take effect upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any more questions on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
This is 14, resolution of the town board granting development master plan approval for the Hudson Heritage Project. And I'm going to start at the now therefore, it repeats, so I'm going to start at the, okay?
Yeah. Now, just one thing, Mr. Carlos, when Mr. Cooper went over this, I'm sure that the board, which I know has had its packet before, saw all the specific findings that were made in paragraphs 1 through 11. Just before that, now therefore. That's what this adds
Right.
to the package of the 2 resolutions that you already passed. So I just wanted to point out that those are the specific findings about this agreement you're entering into. But you're going to start with the now therefore, as everybody now is taking a look at the findings 1 through 11, right?
The findings supporting the adoption of the Development Master Plan are also consistent with your findings in your secret findings. So to repeat them now, I think would prolong the process. But you can certainly see that now you've also taken what's required, the required findings to say that you're going to approve this Development Master Plan, is laid out in this resolution as well.
Okay. Now therefore be it resolved that, number one, the town board hereby approves the DMP pursuant to section 210 sub 30 as amended on December 6th, 2017, and section 210 sub 66 of the town zoning code as set forth in maps DMP 3, DMP 4, and DMP 5, attached hereto and made part hereof, subject to the following. A, the requirements, conditions, and/or mitigation measures set forth in the secret finding statement. B, site plan and/or subdivision approvals to be issued by the planning board for any phase or part of the DMP pursuant to sections 210 sub 66 sub E, 210-150, and chapter 177 of the town code, provided that the planning board shall not approve any site plan and/or subdivision unless the planning board finds that the site plan and/or subdivision is in substantial conformance with the annexed DMP and the secret finding statement, and any conditions and requirements posed by the town board under this approval. C, the planning board may, in conjunction with any application for site plan and/or subdivision approval, approve corresponding modifications to the DMP, provided the proposed modifications are materially consistent with the DMP and the secret findings statement approved hereby. If the planning board determines that the proposed modifications are not materially consistent with the DMP and the secret finding statement, then the applicant may apply directly to the town board for an amendment to the approved DMP and modification of the secret finding statement. Any such amendment shall be subject to the procedures as a new application. If the application for an amendment to the town board is not made, the site plan and/or subdivision plat shall be considered disapproved. If construction work on any component of the DMP is not commenced within 3 years of this approval, then the approval of the DMP shall become null and void, and all rights therein shall cease unless the town board, for good course, authorizes an extension. The town board hereby directs the town clerk to file a copy of this decision in its files within 5 days of the adoption of this resolution and provide a copy of the same to the applicant. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Great.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Be resolved, town
One
board.
second.
Good evening. Nick Manoia, operating partner for EFG DRA Hudson Heritage. I'd like to take a few minutes sitting here thinking about it. It's as close as I'll ever get to kind of an Academy Award or receiving an Oscar. So I don't have a prepared speech, but I'd like to specifically thank Supervisor Neil, who worked tirelessly on this project, and Eric and the entire staff here in the town of Poughkeepsie. My team, George Carfagno, who has worked tirelessly as well from the very beginning for the 3 or 4 years that we've been involved in the project. All of the consultants who have worked on the project, and a number, in the dozens. Peter Wise, who did an extraordinary job on our team on the legal side. Very much appreciate the flexibility, the vision, and the cooperation of the town board and all of the staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, you
Have a
made
great
it-
holiday, everybody.
You too.
Yeah, you made it farther than anybody else has, so
Thank you.
fingers crossed. And when you take down the buildings, make sure there's nobody in them.
We'll try to do
Yeah.
that. Although we have a few people in mind that maybe we want to make sure they're in there, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job, guys.
Congratulations, everybody. Happy holidays.
Same here. Michael.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby grant special consent to the following items to wit. 1, authorize Highway Superintendent Pfeiffer for Highway Department to purchase a dump truck. Be it further resolved that upon the objection of any member of the Town Board, an item may be removed from the list and voted on separately. So moved.
Second.
The motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I have a special concern 1, whereas the town of Poughkeepsie Highway Department wishes to purchase a new dump truck and whereas the County of Onondaga, pursuant General Municipality Law 103, issue competitive bids and procurement low bid from Ben Funk Incorporated of Hudson, New York for 2018 Navistar International HX 620 6x4 cab classic chassis dump truck in the amount of $193,786 and $0. Now therefore be resolved that Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to purchase pursuant to General Municipal Law 103-16, 2018 Navistar International HX 620 6x4 cab chassis dump truck from Ben Funk Incorporated at the Onondaga County bid price of $193,786. Pursuant to the attached recommendation of a Highway Superintendent Pfeiffer, the cost of which is covered by CHIPS funds, and be further resolved that the purchase of this equipment is a Type 2, action required, no environmental review. So move.
Second.
The motion second. Any question on this one? All those,
Talk.
yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That comes to the end of our agenda. Tonight we have a presentation to follow this from Central Hudson in reference to LED street lighting. As you all know, earlier on in the year, we had one company in. We have another one who wants to present tonight, and we may have more get to this, but this is the second company. Central Hudson, you're here somewhere? Oh, there you are. Come on up, gentlemen.
Well, good evening. I'm Mark Mulpeter from the Business Development Area at Central Hudson. This is Jeff Doan, District Director. And Jeff is handing out a PowerPoint slide deck that we prepared just so we can cover the highlights of what we're here to talk about.
Thanks, Jeff.
I'll let him go ahead and get that to everyone. So we're here tonight, and first of all, thank you for inviting us to present to the town board. We've had several conversations with the town supervisor, town attorney regarding LED streetlights. So the town of Poughkeepsie has many streetlights, over 3,500 streetlights, and the 3,500 streetlights are all Central Hudson owned and maintained. They're what we call a Rate A streetlight. We first began to offer an LED streetlight option in September of 2015. So it really created an opportunity for energy efficiency improvements and energy savings when we were able to first offer that. And that was by getting approval from the Public Service Commission to implement a new streetlight tariff. So what we're here tonight to talk about is a proposal to accelerate the replacement of the non-LED streetlights to LED streetlights. So what we would call a mass replacement of LED street lighting. We have a proposal to use energy efficiency rebates that Central Hudson would provide to help to reduce the cost of the mass replacement. So just to kind of go back a bit, what we've been doing since we first came out with the LED tariff in September of 2015, for the first year or so, if we had any failure of a streetlight lamp, photo eye, or the entire fixture itself, we were replacing non-LED streetlights with LED. So of the 3,500 lights, already about 500 have been changed out to LED. And we were doing this through what we considered to be a replacement, a maintenance program. We later, about a year into this maintenance program, the PSC ordered Central Hudson to kind of cease the replacement of LED streetlights unless the fixture had a complete failure. We were ordered to no longer replace the entire fixture if we just had a lamp or a photo eye failure. And the reason for that is the PSC staff their position is that the remaining value of that streetlight that's still out in the field that has not yet reached its useful service life has a stranded value that the municipality should pay for in order for the light to then be replaced. So with that order came a real kind of deceleration of how we could continue to replace the non-LED streetlight inventory. So as a way for us to try to overcome this new barrier that was put into place is where we came up with the energy efficiency rebate. So essentially, the way it would work is that if you looked at all the non-LED streetlights in the town of Poughkeepsie, there's about 3,000 remaining that are not LED. The town would be responsible for this stranded fee of $151 per streetlight in order for us to then retire that inventory and move ahead with a mass replacement. This energy efficiency rebate would allow for almost a third of the cost of the stranded fee to be funded through an energy efficiency rebate that is valued at 8 cents per kilowatt hour of every kilowatt hour saved. And the savings would be really significant because the wattages from old non-LED streetlights compared to the wattages of LED streetlights are really significant. There are some other proposals from utility consultants that are proposing to come in and have municipalities purchase outright all the utility-owned and maintained street lighting and to take on that ownership and responsibility for replacements and ongoing maintenance. Central Hudson believes strongly that our core competency is things like streetlight maintenance, and it's part of our business that we have been doing for a century and want to continue. So again, our program is for a mass replacement of the 3,000 lights to LED, and I'll have Jeff Doan walk through some of the actual savings calculations that you have in front of you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. As Mark just provided the good background of, the biggest thing is we had to look at the mass replacement concept, and no longer can we just remove or replace lights with the new, more beneficial fixture of an LED. So in doing so, how can we accelerate that, and what does that look like? What's the savings? What's the benefits? What are the opportunities? So that's what this presentation is here in front of you. Slide 3, which is actually on page 2, discusses in 2016 what we were doing, then the new order. Now we have the mass replacement of non-LED. Slide 4, what we wanted to do is kind of show the town specifically a snapshot of what does your streetlight bill look like now over the past 3-4 years. So you can see that just over, you'll see year over year, 2014, $919,000, and that's on all streetlights. That's rate A, rate B, and rate C. What Mark and I are specifically talking about are rate A's, but that's more than 75% of the lights that you have out there. So it's the lion's share of everything that we're looking at. Over time, you'll see that far column to the right that says number of LED, naturally the LEDs have started to come onto your system and you're starting to see some benefit. What you'll notice is that although it's only showing the current 12 months in which you've been billed for the street lights this year, it is showing an increased number of lights, also an increased number of LEDs, but it's showing a 13% reduction in your overall consumption. So that's just to show you the LEDs are getting what benefit they're bringing to you now currently, and how much better will it get if we accelerate this through a mass replacement program. The next slide is on slide 5, talks about the current inventory, and it's just a breakdown of the non-LED fixtures that you have out there versus the LED fixtures. Non-LEDs, as you may be aware, are your high-pressure sodiums, your mercury vapors that are obsolete. You can't even get any more. You do have some metal halides out there. Some of the LED fixtures that we've installed over the past 2 years include a 4,000K rendering, but more recently, we filed with the Public Service Commission, and we are solely installing the 3,000K, which is, we went through the PSC and got a lot of feedback from a lot of other municipalities, and that's what they suggested, and that's what we're doing moving forward. If we were to complete this mass replacement, all fixtures would then become LED, and that's a breakdown of what it would look like in terms of the 3,000Ks that are out there now would stay out there. We wouldn't go ahead and replace them with 3,000Ks because they're perfectly good fixtures and they function properly. They have great savings associated with them. There's no reason to go out there and replace those, so those would remain. But then you'd see a large impact on your 3,000Ks, and the remainder of those becoming the LEDs. And then just a couple of highlights there. If we were to do the complete swap out, you would save over 1.3 million kilowatt hours consumed every single year. And then, what that equates to is about 373 tons of carbon dioxide saved every year, which is the equivalent also electricity for 190 homes. It would just be like plucking 190 homes off the town of Poughkeepsie roll and taking away their usage or their consumption. But also, it's very big, is over $160,000 in annual savings with doing that. So let's kind of discuss what are our benefits, what are we trying to work our way towards, and then I like to call them opportunities, not obstacles, not roadblocks. As Mark mentioned before, is the commission does require that there's a stranded value associated with each one of these lights that we take out of service ahead of when they actually would be completely either depreciated or not functioning any longer. And the $151.76 is the exact figure. That came from, it's a result of the weighted average of all of our streetlights that we have out on our territory for all municipalities. So it's over 25,000 lights. And the type of fixture and the depreciated asset value of those, everything comes out to be $151.76. That's what the commission stated to us is a fair value for all lights that we go out and that we would replace. So with that, there's almost 2,900 of those non-LED. And I do want to stress it's only a stranded value for the non-LED, being that we're not going to replace the LEDs that we've already installed. Like Mark had alluded to, if these other companies that come in and you want to buy out your own lights, you do need to buy out the LEDs that are out there now. So that 151 is not only for the 2,900, it's for over 3,500 lights that you have out there. So what we're saying is at $438,000 would be the stranded value for the non-LEDs. And then as Mark said, Central Hudson's going to offer the 8 cents per kilowatt hour saved as a one-time incentive to offset the stranded value payback that would be required. So that has a value of $109,000. Excuse me. So at the very bottom, you see if you take the $438,000, you back out the $109,000 in energy efficiency savings. That stranded value payback that would be required is $329,000 and $21. So with that being the total, the payback, we also stated that over $160,000 would be your annual savings. So you're working your way to a 2-year payback on completing the mass replacement, on top of all of the other savings and benefits as we described earlier. So that's pretty much walking your way through what the mass replacement program is, where you stand now currently as a municipality, and where we can go. I don't know unless Mark has any other questions. I think now might be a good time.
Yeah, we can certainly take questions. It's a turnkey proposal that would require the payment of the stranded fee that would be reduced through the energy efficiency rebate, but Central Hudson would purchase, install, and continue to maintain the Rate A streetlights in the same way we do now.
There's also an advantage for you guys for maintenance purpose. You don't have to change the LED lights every 3 months. Am I right saying that?
No, you're right. You're right about that. The expectation is that these are long life fixtures and would require less maintenance, and over time, the cost of service to maintain street lighting with less maintenance should actually come down over time.
Plus it's brighter and stuff like that. So Mark, with the savings, maybe Central Hudson can install lights in Kingwood Park, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you. Great job. Thank you. Thank you.
How long of a project is this, if we were to go with a project like this, start to finish to do the installation?
Right. I would say once we had the approval to move ahead, we would need probably 90 days or so to procure material and line up contractors. It's a lot of work. So the duration of the actual replacement would be 6 to 8 months, I'd estimate.
Townwide?
Townwide, right, to get all, roughly 2,900 to 3,000 lights replaced.
Who's paying the maintenance on those lights now?
The town, that's part of the tariff rate.
So we're paying the maintenance on the lights, and you own the lights.
Correct. Right, we
Okay.
own and maintain the lights, so in exchange, the town pays the tariff charge. So when we originally installed the lights, we provided the lights, the material and the labor to install them, and we've provided all the ongoing maintenance from the time they were installed. So that's really what the town rate is. And then in addition to the rate, you have the actual energy or kilowatt hours that represent the usage of the streetlights.
Well, how much is the maintenance of it? If we have 3,500 lights, is it for a year, $100 a light, $10 a light?
Well, I mean, it's tough to break out because like Mark was saying is you're basically paying a lease fee. Like a light, for example, your most common light is a 70-watt high-pressure sodium. 161 of that, $161 associated with that light for your annual fee is just leasing of that light, which would include the initial installation, the wire that was needed to hook it up, cruise time, and our ongoing maintenance. So, and that's
I thought we
averaged
were
out.
we're not paying the maintenance on that then?
No,
It's in that. It's
Oh,
in
we
that
are
number.
paying the maintenance.
It's baked into the annual charge.
So what, you don't. It's not like you pay us every time. If we go out to Light A, you're not going to pay us for that trip. You're paying it in that leased amount.
Okay, is it a lease amount, which I understand how a lease works?
Right.
Or is it a maintenance fee?
It's a tariffed rate. So if you went to the Service Classification 8 PSC tariff for Central Hudson electric rates, you'll see every size and type of fixture, what the annual rate is for each fixture.
Okay, but the part
Bill, I
it
think,
sounds like a good idea, but what I'm having a hard time getting into my head is,
Bill, I think I know where you're going with this. A couple of years ago, we went through this when other companies came in, and I do believe we spoke to Central Hudson. I think we pay, don't quote me on this, but I think it's somewhere around $9 a street pole
here,
in our lighting district, yes. And that's why we actually own a couple of our own poles, and we cut down that cost.
okay, but
Highway
So
maintenance.
I think if where you're going with it, think of it as it is like a lease. It's like when you're leasing a car, you're getting the maintenance included. That's what you're doing here. You're leasing the fixture, and we're maintaining it for you.
I thought we paid for the maintenance. Do we pay for the lease or do we pay for the maintenance?
It's all built into.
Right.
So we
you
pay
have
for
an
the
annual-
lease and we pay for the maintenance?
No,
The
you have-
lease is the maintenance.
Well, essentially, going back to Joe's question about there would be reduced maintenance with LED. So the way that rates are established, it's based on actual costs to own and maintain that street lighting. So the maintenance is baked into the annual charge. There is
Okay.
no extra charge
So
when we
the
come
annual
out.
charge is $9 a pole?
Don't quote me on it. It's, the number we came up with a couple of years ago was about $9 a pole.
Okay, what's the annual charge now?
Well, the $9, I'm not sure where that comes from. I mean, again, if we went to the Service Classification 8 tariff, and I can certainly provide all that, you'd see that the most common streetlight in the town is a 70-watt high-pressure sodium with an annual rate of $163.
So it would be $163 times 3,500.
Each fixture has a slightly different rate, but
Okay,
For
as an
these-
average amount, would it be $150 times 3,500 lights?
We'll call it 180.
180
as your weighted average.
weighted average times 3,500 lights is our maintenance lease. Combined.
That's your street light bill.
That's our street light bill.
That's your bill that you've paid, yes.
And if we go through with this, what's the reduction?
Well,
So your total charges will go from, like I said, 900,000 down probably to about 600,000.
Yeah, if we use the
Okay, so
example.
if I could do it this way, so I'm not an engineer, my mind doesn't, I go in straight lines. So you said approximate aggregate rate of $180 per pole times 3,500 poles. How much does the 180 go down by doing
Okay,
this?
let's use a specific example, because I think it would be more straightforward. So again, if we go back to the 70-watt high-pressure sodium streetlight, that is the most common. Of the 3,400 lights that the town of Poughkeepsie has in its streetlight districts, there's 1,600 70-watt HPS. The HPS annual rate is $163. The equivalent streetlight in an LED would be 25 watts, so 45 watts less, at an annual rate of $137. So the rate is $26 less annually, and the energy savings per light, what is that, Jeff? That would be, it would go from $18 to $5.
Okay,
So
so from
that's-
$180,
163 to 137, and energy from 18 to 5.
okay, so from the $180 aggregate average,
Well, I'm not sure that's an average. I mean, again, I'd have to go through.
Each pole, Bill, each pole,
I understand.
the different energy
What
for
I'm
each.
trying to understand is, if it's $180 a pole per year,
Well,
how
again,
much
the
does this reduce
70 watt
that?
HPS is 163.
so
Okay,
it would
so,
be down to 163.
well, 163, if, again, I think it's more straightforward to talk about an actual example rather than an average that may or may not be an average. So 163 is your actual annual rate for a 70 watt HPS. That
How many
equivalent,
poles did you say have that?
1,617.
1,600?
Right. So the equivalent LED is a 25 watt at a cost of $137 annually. So 1,617 times the difference between 163 and 137, so roughly $26, is your savings in the rate for 70 watt HPS alone. On top of that, you're saving on the kilowatt hours of about $13 additional per year.
Okay, so we would go down to approximately cost of $124 per light.
If you
And
factor
that
in
includes the
the
lease
rate,
and the maintenance,
correct, the rate
times
includes the maintenance.
3,500 lights.
I think it might be 142, but is it 137 and 5?
Oh, they have different
Yeah.
kinds of
One-
lights
it's-
on different poles.
Right, and
Yeah.
which is why it's,
Specific example, Mr. Nelson's correct, 143.
And when you give us numbers for what you're actually going to do, you're going to break it down by the type of light?
yeah, we can
And when
certainly.
you're done, they'll
yeah.
all be the same? They're all going to be these LED lights?
Right.
We have that, and we can share that with you. Where there's right, we could provide a matrix that has
All
an
I'm
entire
trying to
breakdown.
have in my head is, how much money are we saving the people in the town of Poughkeepsie? And I thought the easy way to do it would be, how much does it cost it per pole? How much will it cost us per pole? Make the subtraction, do the multiplication, and you know how much
Yeah.
money you're gonna save.
Well, we've calculated that to be, again, 100, and Jeff went over that in the presentation, $166,000 annually,
Annually.
savings.
So once the bill goes down, that's what it is.
Correct. Well, it's a savings of 166,000.
Per year.
Correct, correct.
Which means in 2 years, it will pay off everything that was done.
Correct.
Okay, so we front-end the money for this mass redo of it. So the town's gonna give you money to pay for the LED lights that goes
Really,
on the
what
pole that you own and fixtures that we lease from you. I'm having a hard time wrapping, I just have a kind of a straight line mind.
Okay, sure. Well, again, so really what you're paying for is not the new LED labor and material, because that's built into the rate. We provide that. What you're paying for is to retire the existing non-LED streetlights that still have a value. And again, the PSC ordered Central Hudson to not move ahead with replacing those lights without first requiring the municipality to pay that stranded value. The concept there is the town is benefiting from the savings that will result, so the town should be responsible for paying the stranded value. I personally didn't agree with that, because I
Neither
think,
do I,
I think
so-
everyone benefits from streetlights, even if you don't live in the town of Poughkeepsie. I'm leaving here tonight and driving through the town, I'm benefiting from the streetlights. But that's the order, and that's what we need to comply with. So again, that stranded fee is to retire the non-LED streetlights that still have useful life and value.
I thank you for your explanation. It might help, at least from my vote, if I could see those numbers you spoke about. I would
I'll give it
appreciate
to you
that.
before we leave.
Thank you.
And Mark, that's 2 years, no increase in the rates, correct?
So again, using that 70-watt HPS example, the rate itself would reduce from the 163 to the 137. And that's similar across the other LED wattage lights that we would install, where there's consistently a reduction. The next most popular or common light would be a 150-watt HPS that's currently $181 annually. That reduces to $143. And that's consistent across the 4 major LED light sizes and
So
types.
obviously you evaluate the wattage based on highway, neighborhoods and stuff like that, right? Because you don't want to put a bright light in the middle of a housing complex.
No, we don't. I mean, every non-LED light has an LED equivalent based on the light output that's similar. So the light output is similar, but really what's been done with streetlight technology is the light output is similar, but it can produce that light at much more efficient, reduced wattage. So again, you could have a 70-watt HPS that produces an amount of light that now can be achieved with 25 watts. So it's really remarkable what's
Well, the
happened with
savings is
streetlight
basically,
technology.
it's pretty good, savings per year. I think that's pretty good amount of money, my way, yes.
Mark, the annual fixture fee, is that your number, or does that number come from the PSC?
That's, it's part of the Service Classification 8 streetlight tariff, so it's an established, approved rate by the PSC.
Okay. Anybody got any other questions? You guys got some cards you can leave in case these ladies and gentlemen have any
We'd be
questions?
happy to answer any follow-up questions or to come back and talk in another setting and provide more data.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank
Mark.
you.
Thank you.
We've come to the end of our board meeting. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for any public comment on any item whatsoever.
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. Is there anybody who'd like to make any comments or questions, Mr. Armstrong? Come on up.
I hope I can remember what I wanted to ask.
That's okay.
On the cleanup on that property located in the town, and Van Wagner Road, or Wilbur Boulevard, I'm sorry. It said to either destroy or repair the property, is that correct?
Correct.
Now,
Repair doesn't mean we're going to put it back to original state. Repair is more or less to secure the property from vandals and so on. So it's not destroyed.
oh, okay, if you don't destroy it, you'll secure it so it can't be
Yeah.
gotten into.
Yeah, we're
and
not
this
gonna
and
go
that.
replace
Now,
windows
this is
and-
still owned by the property owner, and they would be charged whatever the cost is to
Will we
do
put-
whatever you gotta do?
We'll be putting our tax bills, of what we usually do.
Okay. On number 4, they made the comment, if I'm not mistaken, the 550 dump truck, I thought they said was $64,592. And on the backside, on the special consent,
That's a different truck.
Two
oh,
different.
it's a different
That's a
truck.
different truck, yeah.
Oh, because a tremendous difference in cost is for sure.
It's a bigger
That's
trucks.
Yeah, the first
It's a
one was
much
2
bigger
trucks.
dump truck, then,
Yeah,
that's for
the
sure.
First one was 2 vehicles, the last one was 1 vehicle.
Well, what would they classify this other pickup, or this other dump truck as? It's
The
not a
last one at the end?
550, it's gotta be something way above that. Or has it got special equipment on it, or?
It's a 6x4 chassis dump, Mark?
Yeah.
Mark will fill you in. Thanks, Mark.
It's basically a 14-wheel dump truck. We have one of them, we
Oh,
have,
like the big,
right, the one you
tractor trailer?
haul blacktop with and we haul our salt with, yeah, so it's a big dump truck. The one that we're replacing is 20 years old. So that's the purpose of it. It's been a great truck. It was with us a long time, but it's starting to cost a lot of money. At its point right now, we would have to replace the whole frame, which would be over $40,000 of it. So it doesn't, to me, doesn't make sense to put $40,000.
I've been through all that with the fire department.
Also.
and by the
Mark, is this
replacing
diesel,
What they're
this truck?
replacing.
Yes,
But,
yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
well, I got you here, not to go off subject, but out on Colette, that manhole cover is still 4
Yeah,
inches below grade.
well, it's not 4 inches.
What's happening,
Yes,
what's
we'll
gonna
take care of it for
happen?
you.
I've seen it happen before with the leaves there now again. I don't know, are you gonna pick up the rest of the leaves that people throw out there?
Yes, we are.
People are swerving around that thing. Now, when the snowbanks come, luckily, there's not a lot of traffic, but,
We just were through your neighborhood on Tuesday. We'll be,
yeah, I
we'll be
know you
back.
did. I had mine picked up, but I see people all of a sudden got piles out there again. But I'm lucky I can blow mine in the backyard into IBM's property, or I should say the golf course.
Joe, don't say things.
Don't matter. There's a gate, there's a fence that stops it.
I just wrote him in the back. It's good enough.
Yeah,
Anything else,
I don't
Joe?
worry about it. They can throw me in jail. Where was the last one? The Central Hudson thing, I hope you guys are gonna sit down and really knock heads.
Yeah.
Because
Oh.
whether it's good to let them run out and replace them as they go bad, because of all the life that's left in them, or is it cheaper to go ahead and do this mass thing? I mean, I've been trying to figure numbers as they've been throwing them out there, but you're going nuts trying to keep up with it, of course. But the LED lights are good, no question about it. It sounds like a good deal, but we got to put up $500,000 to get this thing going and wait to get it paid back over how many years or?
2.
I understand, well, you say 2, but, things sometimes don't work out the way you think. But I just hope you guys are going to get into this into great details on all possibilities of ways to do this. And not just, it sounds good, go ahead.
That's exactly what we're going to do. We had another company in earlier in the year, so now it's time
So
for
you're
them to,
comparing,
it's time for them to sit down and, look at the 2 companies, and had another one that called today, so there might be a 3rd company.
Okay, now, another off the wall, I guess it won't happen until the project gets going, but this Hudson Heritage, they haven't even talked about the taxes and the value of the property until it gets, things are built and so forth, and then they would finally figure out what their tax situation would be, how much they owed in taxes, outside of what they're paying now, but once it's built up, of course, there would be a big difference.
Yeah, it's such a large project, I think it'd be very hard for them to tell us exactly what they're going to give us.
Yeah, right,
How they're going to be assessed yet till they start to get to their site plan approval.
My concern is when we went through the thing with, I think it was Meadows out there on 44, where they agreed to pay the fire department the taxes without paying over a year's time, you know what I'm saying? The low rate and going up higher and higher
say
over
again,
a
a pilot.
20-year period, or pilot, whatever you call it. I hope that these situations that are being considered are, remember, because we can't go back to the taxpayer and raise it to get that money back that we got to pay back if they get these deals with the tax.
Well, I know
I
they've
think
been
you
in
know
con-
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no.
The fire department can't afford to give this money back.
Yeah, I know they've been in contact with Fairview though, and they have a very good working relationship, so I can't speak for Fairview right now, but I know I've spoken to Chris and they said he's worked with George and Nick.
Yeah, and he's actually.
He's happy
in favor
with
of
where
it.
they're going so far.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else that would like to discuss any town business at all? If not, motion to resume the rules?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I just had a couple things to say here, if you don't mind. First of all, I went to that Arlington parade there, the Holiday Parade, and I just want to thank Ann, Bob Legacy, Mark Pfeiffer, all that. It's the first time I was able to attend it. It was, I think it was well attended by a lot of people there. Everyone did a great job. The other thing I had here is, I just want to bring up, as some of you might know, I'm also the fire chief in New Hamburg. And we had a call back in October, I don't want to bring it up too much, October 30th, at Hudson's, Pontiac, for a male cardiac arrest. And when we got there, the owner, Mr. Mulaney, he, upon himself, bought a defibrillator for his business. And him and his son started CPR, shocked the guy with the defibrillator before we got there. Then we continued, and as of still to this day, the guy is still alive. So I thought it was just good for Mr. Mulaney himself there, seeing that he didn't have to purchase those defibrillators, which he did. He has two, as a matter of fact. And then the last thing is, as just a little public service announcement, as most people know, when we were out walking, we heard some comments about fire taxes and stuff, and why don't we do something about it? And as most people know, we really can't. We, two different governmental entities, so we can't do anything with fire taxes. But next Tuesday, just so everybody knows, there are commissioner elections in both Fairview, Arlington, New Hamburg, all three in the town of Poughkeepsie. So that's your time to go out and voice your opinion and to vote. That's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else? Got anything to say? Nope. Jeff, what about you?
Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Be it resolved, the town board, the town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby adjourn to executive session to consider the following matters to wit. Personal matters to wit, a meeting to discuss the hiring, firing, promotion, demotion, and employment history of a particular individual who need not to be identified at this time, and confidential communications between the attorney and his client, the town board, based on attorney-client privilege. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to invite our comptroller into executive session with us.
Anybody need anything signed?
That was the next word. Come on up.